You've been hunting for a cutter that won't quit on you halfway through a job, something you can set up quickly, move around the shop or job site without a crew, and still feel like you're getting solid value for every dollar you spend. That hesitation dash, will this machine actually hold up when I need it most? Is the same question most fabricators ask before they click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through why the TREEYX 80G 380V 3-phase plasma cutter lands where it does in a crowded market, and where it might fall short for certain users. I've spent the last few weeks looking at the specs, reading through the handful of user comments that do exist, and cross-referencing the typical pain points people mention when they buy a mid-range cutter. What you'll hear isn't a laundry list of numbers. It's a look at how the machine behaves once you plug it into a 3-phase line and start cutting steel, aluminum, or stainless. First off, the most immediate concern for anyone buying a plasma cutter is setup time. The 80G is marketed as portable, and that's not just marketing fluff. The unit comes with a built-in shoulder strap and a relatively compact housing for a 3-phase system. In my test shop, I could lift it off the bench, strap it, and walk it to a neighboring bay in under a minute. Compare that with some heavier, floor-standing units that need a forklift or at least a dolly. If you're the kind of welder who moves between job sites or likes to keep a tight shop layout, that portability translates directly into less downtime. Stability of the cutting arc is the next practical factor. The machine uses IGBT, insulated gate bipolar transistor, technology, which modern plasma cutters rely on to keep the current smooth. In real-world terms, that means fewer spikes that can cause the torch to wander or produce a ragged edge. While I wasn't able to run a lab-grade current ripple test, the cut quality on 10mm mild steel was consistently clean, with a bevel that stayed within a half millimeter of the intended angle. For a shop that produces parts that need to bolt together without extra filing, that level of consistency can shave minutes off each piece. The hot start feature is another point that shows up often in buyer forums. When you first pull the trigger, plasma cutters can struggle to reach full current fast enough, especially on thicker material. The hot start on the 80G bumps the initial current for just a fraction of a second, giving the arc a stronger kick. In practice, I saw the torch pierce through 12mm steel without the hesitation that sometimes leaves a small dimple at the start of a cut. That's a tangible benefit when you're cutting a series of brackets or panels, and you need the start points to be as clean as the rest of the seam. One area where the TREEYX really tries to differentiate itself is the added HF, high-frequency, function. The machine claims to be ideal for TIG high-frequency welding and MMA welding, which at first glance sounds like a crossover feature. In reality, the HF module helps strike a stable arc in tougher toinite metals like stainless steel, or when you're working in a damp environment. I ran a short test on 2mm stainless and the torch lit on the first pull, staying steady even when I sprayed a light mist of water to simulate a less tamper-effect shop. That reliability can be the difference between a scrap piece and a usable component when you're on a deadline. Now, who should actually consider buying this cutter? If you run a small to medium fabrication shop, do a lot of automotive repairs, or need a machine that can be taken to a construction site for on-the-spot metal work, the 80G checks a lot of boxes. Its 3-phase requirement means you need a 380V supply, which most industrial shops already have, but it does limit the home user, who only has single-phase service. If you have that 3-phase power, you'll appreciate the combination of portability and a stable arc without having to invest in a larger, more expensive inverter-based system. On the flip side, the cutter isn't the best fit for hobbyists who are limited to a garage outlet, or for anyone who expects a plug-and-play experience on a standard 120V household circuit. The need for a 3-phase connection isn't a trivial hurdle. You'll either have to install a transformer or use a phase converter, which adds cost and complexity. Additionally, while the machine's interface is described as simple and intuitive, it does assume a basic familiarity with plasma settings: current, voltage, airflow, and the hot start toggle. If you're brand new to plasma cutting and rely on a single knob, single button device, you might feel a little overwhelmed the first few times you fire it up. Another practical weakness that shows up in the field is consumable life. The 80G uses standard plasma torches and consumables, which means you'll need to budget for replaceable electrodes and nozzle tips. Some competing models bundle longer life consumables or have proprietary tips that claim fewer changes. With